Hey guys, welcome to my Samoan language instruction on for and with. Before we get started, here's some vocabulary for you. Okay, let's get started. So for, mo, and ma. So this is the two different versions of for that we're going to be concentrated on in this slide. There's a third that we're going to be talking about in the next slide. Okay, so we're worried about for, mo, and ma right now. And these two things that I'm talking about, mo and ma, can be expressed as for. Okay. I said that those can be translated as for. The thing about mo, though, there's some things that you need to know about mo. Mo can be pronounced as mo, so you don't need the macron on top of that o. That gives it a little bit of extra emphasis. And then the third thing that you need to know is mo. It can be translated as for, but mo specifically, not ma. Mo can also mean for the use of and for the benefit of. Okay, so that's why mo can be used so many different ways. It's the most common way. It's the most common way to say for. Okay, so mo is the most common way to say for in Samoan. Okay, and that's not to say that's the only way that you should use for, but it's the most common of the three. Okay, so mo can be translated as for the use of, and for the benefit of, and then ma can just be translated as in this case, with the macron on top of it, it can be translated as for as well. Okay, so in contexts where a particular object is intended for another person, both mo and ma can be used. So if that doesn't make sense, hopefully these examples make sense to you. So if I wanted to say, take the book for yourself, I could use mo or ma, and the way that I would say that is ave mo oe le tusi or ave ma oe le tusi. So the thing that changes is this: take with you the book is basically what I'm saying. I say take the book for you for yourself, and this is the English way I say it. Okay, that's the English way. The way that I say it in Samoan is take. Wow, that was a terrible T. Let's try that one more time. Sorry, T. Take with you the book. Okay, so that's the way that I say take the book for yourself in Samoan. Take with you the book. So there's ave, obviously, you should know that. Ave is take, and then the mo or the ma is the with, and then you should know oi by now, and that's you, and then the last thing is the book. Okay, so I spent probably a little bit more time on that than I should have, but let's go to our second example. Give me the book. Okay, so give me the book. Ao mai is kind of like is bring, so it's almost like bring me the book is the way that I'm saying that. Bring the pen for me. That's the way that I'm saying. Give me the pen in English, but the way that you say it in Samoan is bring the pen for me. Okay, bring the pen for me is the way that I'm saying that in Samoan. Okay, so you have to change your thinking a little bit in Samoan, and the way that you're going to get used to that is just the more and more examples you see. Okay, and so I would encourage you to just kind of try to say things in Samoan based on how you hear it from native speakers or from the way that you hear it from these videos. Okay, so ao mai, that right there is bring. There's other ways that I could say that, give me the pen. You could say, instead of this ao mai, I could say tu'u mai, and then this is the bad thing, tu'u mai yate a'u le peni. Okay, so that's the way, and sorry, I can't write right there. So tu'u mai yate a'u le peni is another way that I could say the same thing. Give me the pen. You just have to change the sentence order a little bit. Tu'u mai yate a'u and then le peni. Okay, so hopefully these examples are making sense to you. So that was quite a bit of an extensive explanation. I would encourage you, the more important thing than the explanation though is just making sure that you remember these examples. So whether it's through audio or visual, whatever, notice the Samoan versions of things and you start to use those in your Samoan repertoire. Okay, so when you start to come across certain principles, use it immediately, so then that way it sticks with you. If you don't use it, if you get shy of using it, or if you're afraid to make a mistake, that's where you start to forget these things. You need to implement these things right off the bat, and if some Samoan corrects you, that's fine. That's the way that I learn. That's the way that you learn any language, is you get corrected by natives. Okay, so then the third version of 4, sorry about that tangent, but the third version of 4 is for, it's E, and it's the 4 in the sense of a time duration. Okay, so when I'm talking about some aspect with time related to it, so in the sense of a time, and I'm wanting to use the word 4, then I use E. So I don't use mo or ma when I'm using it in the sense of a time duration. Okay, so if that doesn't make sense, hopefully these example sentences make sense. So the girl slept for 3 days. So this 4 right here, I'm talking about a time duration right after that. For 3 days, I'm explaining to someone how long it took. Okay, so that's another way of saying time duration. How long something is taking. Okay, so the girl slept for 3 days, and so I need to use my typical sentence structure here. So I say my past tense marker, so that's saw. Okay, then I do my predicate phrase, and in this case it's a verb. So moi is sleep. So past tense moi is slept, and then the person doing the sleeping is going to be the doer, or in a probably better terms is the subject, and that's leitene, that's the girl. Okay, and then the next thing I say is for 3 days. Okay, so I'm going to break this up a little bit. And my 4 in this case that we just learned is the E right here. So E can mean a lot of different things in Samoan, and that's why you need to know the different versions of it. Also, it means days, and then this is something I haven't taught you, is a total. So a, we're going to learn about this more in depth in a future video, but a can mark the amount of something. So basically, I'm saying also a total, so I'm saying days 3. Okay, so a can mark the amount of days or whatever you're talking about. So we'll talk about this more in the future. I don't want you to worry too much about it, but just know that this E, there's another use of a, and that's you can mark the amount of how long or how many something is with the E right next to it. And there's another way you can say as well, but that's beyond the scope of what we're talking about in this video. So the house stood for many days. So in this case, I have 4 again, and I'm talking about a duration of time here for many years. Okay, I'm not just saying mo or ma. I'm using E again, and that's because I'm talking about an amount of time that's taking place. So the house stood. So my past tense, stood kind of indicates to me that it was in the past tense. And then my, sorry, I need to erase that. So then the thing that was the verb is also stood, so that's to. Okay, so stood kind of indicates to me saw to. And then the subject of the house is, of the sentence is the house, so le fale. And then for many years, so I'm going to break it up again. For is E, okay? And then again, this is a way I can do many years. So I'm going to do years is tausanga, and then many in this case, I'm indicating an amount of how many years, so I indicate that with the E, a tele, okay? So hopefully that little brief introduction to that makes sense. If you don't get this part right here, the a tolu and the a tele, then don't worry, we're going to be talking about that in another video, okay? Again, so remember, mo means for the use of. So mo means for the use, so it can mean for the use of, and for the benefit of. And mo is also the most common way to say for in Samoan. You can use both mo and ma in contexts where an object is intended for another person. And then the thing that you need to remember probably the most is E. This I right here means for in the sense of a time duration. So for in the sense of a time duration. Okay, so that's what you need to remember about for. And here are some practice sentences. I already went over some example sentences with you. So I encourage you to try to translate these sentences and pause the video. Okay, so here are the answers to those. Hopefully you were able to get those. And now we're going to be moving on to with. Okay, so a little bit of an English review, not too bad. It's not as bad as the last English review I did with transitive and intransitive verbs. This one's just going to be pretty simple. So the English word with, so I'm talking about with right here, it indicates two things. You can say with is accompaniment, okay? So with can either mean accompaniment, and accompaniment means, sorry, I can't even say that word. Accompaniment, it is with someone else, okay? So that's what I want you to think of that word if you don't realize what that means. Or two, it can mean instrumentally, okay? Instrumentality. So you're using an instrument. And so by something is accomplished, okay? So there's two ways. The one is with someone, okay? And the second is with an instrument, okay? So accompaniment or instrumentality, okay? So now we're just going to kind of do some English sentences here, and hopefully you can distinguish between the two. And here we go. So I mop the floor with a rag. So is this with indicating that I'm doing something with someone, or is it indicating that I'm doing something with an object or a tool of some sort? Okay, so that's the first question. The second question is I mop the floor with Susan, okay? So I mop the floor with Susan. Is it with accompaniment or instrumentality? I went to the town with Eleanor, and I fixed the machine with a screwdriver. Okay, so hopefully you marked those, and the answers to those is I mop the floor with a rag. That's with instrumentality. A rag is an instrument that I'm using to mop the floor with, so that's with instrumentality. I mop the floor with Susan. This with right here is I'm doing it with someone, so I'm being accompanied with Susan, okay? I went to town with Eleanor. Again, that is with accompaniment. And I fixed the machine with a screwdriver. And so hopefully this is making sense to you. So basically you find the word with, okay? You find the word with, and then whatever comes after it. Rag is an object. It's a noun. So that's going to indicate to me, if that makes more sense to you, if I have something that comes after with is a noun, then it's most likely, an object, not a noun. We can't use noun. If it's an object, then it's probably going to be instrumentality. And then if it's a person, okay, because the reason why we couldn't say noun before is because a person is a noun. So if it's a person or an amount of people or whatever, then it's probably going to be accompaniment, okay? So Susan and Eleanor are both people, so that's why I use this with, okay? And then a rag and a screwdriver are both objects that can be used as instruments, and so that's why I use instrumentality, okay? So the reason why I went over this so probably longer than it should have taken is I wanted you to know that there's two different versions of with in Samoan, actually three, but when I do accompaniment, it's going to be a different version of with, and when I do instrumentality, it's going to be a different with. In English, I just use the same word with. In Samoan, they're two different ones, okay? So now we're going to be talking about accompaniment. So this right here, I need my highlighter, is with for accompaniment. So when expressing the word with for accompaniment, then you can use either fa'atasima or just ma. And so that's one thing that's a little bit tricky is before in the video I had ma with a macron on top as for, okay? It meant for, okay? And in this video I'm telling you that ma means, right here, ma means with. So that's the little bit tricky thing about Samoan. This ma can mean with, it can mean and, okay? And there's other meanings to it. And then if I do a macron on top of that, then it can mean for, okay? So that's the hard thing about Samoan is there's so many things that are very similar. So you need to know that both of these mean these things, okay? So fa'atasi ma or ma can mean with, and so they can also mean and, but in this case we're going to be focusing them as being with. So fa'atasi ma means together with, and ma, let me highlight that really quick. Ma means and or with. I did a plus right there because I didn't want to do and with, but and plus with. So like I wrote out before, ma can mean and with, and in this case we're going to think of it as just being with. Okay, so and can be appropriate too, but let's just notice these example sentences. So the boy went with the girl to church. Okay, so I could say that in English, and in Samoan I would say. So this went indicates to me a past tense, so I say saw, and then it also indicates to me my predicate phrase, which is my verb, so oatu, and this oatu is the plural version of go. So sa oatu, and then the boy with the girl, okay, so these are my subjects, and so that's, in Samoan, I do a little bit of a sentence structure change, so the boy and the girl are both my objects. They're the ones doing the action, or my doers, and then with is the thing that's combining the two to be kind of in the same place. You can't just say the boy, the girl. That doesn't make sense. You need to combine them some sort. So you use with to combine the two into being in the same place. So this part right here is my doer section. So the boy is letama, and then with the girl. Okay, so sa watu letama ma letene. And then the last thing is my prepositional phrase, to church, and in Samoan, ile lotu. Okay? So if that doesn't make sense, you could also think of this ma as being and. So the boy, so let's just focus on the Samoan version. So if I read this sentence, I would say past tense, and then went, the boy and the girl. I could think of it as that as well. Or past tense go, or past tense went the boy with the girl. You could do either in this case. And then my prepositional phrase would be to the church. Okay? Okay, moving on to our second example here. The girl went to the chapel together with her parents. Okay? So I'm going to say past tense right here, saw. And then went is oatu. Then the girl is going to be the first part of the object, okay, so letene. And then the thing that she's going with someone, she's going together with her parents. So her parents are also going to church, okay. And the thing that I'm combining those two subjects with is together with. And so I'm saying together with fa'atasima. You can't really see the F right there. Let me try to do that. So the tene is the first part of the doer section, or the object, and then together with is the thing combining the doers together. And then her parents are Lona, Matua. Okay? And then to the church is my prepositional phrase, and that's ile falesa. Okay? So hopefully Matua, hopefully you remember the word for parents is matua, and yeah, hopefully that example sense made sense to you. Okay, so moving on to our third version of with. Okay, I guess the instrumentality version of with is e. It's kind of like the for in a sense of the time duration that we talked about before, but when I'm saying e and it has a glottal stop before it, it can be used as with. This can be the word for with, and it's basically just the preposition e that we've talked about in our preposition video quite a ways back. So let's hope that these example sentences will help clarify anything that might be confusing. So I will draw the picture with a pencil. So this right here is with, and I'm using an object or an instrument. So I don't use fa'atasima or ma, I use e. And I will draw the pencil with a with a pencil. And so let's just kind of go over this sentence again. So I will, this will kind of indicates a future tense, so olea. and then I is the doer, and so that's O. And then my draw right here is my verb, so then I put that in the predicate phrase part. And then the thing that's receiving the action is my object, and so that is the picture. And so that's le ata. You can't see the L right there, but that's le ata. And then with, I'm going to erase all this now. With instrumentality is E with a pencil, okay? With a pencil or with the pencil. I said a pencil in English and I said the pencil in Samoan. Please forgive me. So if I wanted to make this correct, I would take this part out and I'd put the pencil, okay? So this is probably the more appropriate term, and it would be the pencil would be le penitala. And if I wanted to do a pencil, I would just switch le with se, so se penitala. Okay, so let's move on to our next example sentence. The table was made with or out of bamboo. Okay, so in this case, I'm using bamboo to make a table, so that's acting as an instrument. It's an object. Okay, so the table was made, so this was right here indicates a past tense, so that's going to be my na. And then made with is faya. Okay, so the made part, this made with is kind of, sorry, the made right here is kind of, it's faya. Not faya, it was done with the table. This table was done with the bamboo is kind of another way that you could think of it. Fi can mean do or made with or whatever. There's different meanings of fi. This is an additional way that you can use fi, okay? And this is the perfective form of it, so it's faya, okay? Then the table is the thing that's acting as the object, so that's the table. So that's le lao lao, okay? So now I'm going to erase all that, and I'm going to do with instrumentality, with an instrument, is E. It's just this preposition. And then the bamboo is le ofe, okay? So hopefully those example sentences make sense. And here's some review. So ma, okay? This is just for review for the with part. So ma can mean and or with, and fa tasima can mean together with, okay? And they both show accompaniment, that you were doing something with someone. This E right here, sorry, I'm having a hard time with my stylus. So I, right here, E with, it shows that the means of an instrument by which something is done, okay? So those are the two different forms. So this whole video, there's some similarities, okay? So we'll get to those similarities in a second. But here's some practice sentences, okay? So I want you to pause the video and try to translate these sentences. Okay, so here's the, hopefully, those are the same. So Jim came with his friends just now, and there's the answer. And hopefully you were able to get these, and good luck, guys. The last thing I want to mention is we talked about some different principles that were similar. So for, I can do as mo or ma, okay? And these two, this mo could just be mo, or sorry, it could just be mo. Mo. So mo can be mo, and ma has to be ma, but these both show, sorry, they show that an object can be used by a person, or mo specifically can be translated as for the benefit of or for the use of, as well as just for, okay? And then if I wanted to do another version of for, this would be I, okay? And this one is more of a time duration that you're showing for this amount of years or for this long. It's a time duration, okay? So that's the difference between the for. So, man, having a hard time with the stylus today. So that's the two different versions of for, I guess, mo and ma, and then e. And then with that we talked about just now, there's one that you can do that we just talked about, and that is the preposition, and this is for instrumentality. When I'm using an instrument or an object, I use this, E, okay? And then when I'm doing it with an accompaniment, okay, it'll be ma or fa'atasima, okay? So this is when I'm doing something with another person or people. This is the with for accompaniment, okay? So hopefully that little review helped a little bit, and if you need help, guys, I encourage you to rewind and go back to wherever you need to understand and talk to as many Samoans as possible. I wish you good luck, and tofa soifua.